Hello everybody, good morning and welcome to the United Stand. This is your latest Manchester United news as Manchester United enter the race for Jude Bellingham and Liverpool depart it. Also, a major boost in the sale of Manchester United. Very depressing news last night, talking about a third round of bids. Been contacted by a couple of journalists and I'm going to give you the update on that detail that some of you may already have. But it could be a potential boost for a quick sale for Manchester United. Also, we'll be talking about what Ten Hag's had to say about Casemiro, quite interesting there, and this overarching fear that I think we're all waking up to this morning. Could this finally be the year that Man City win the Champions League and potentially win a treble? And what does that mean for Manchester United? Well, we'll discuss that a little bit later. But look, let's fly straight into the big news. I suppose the big news for me is probably about the sale, but I think the big news for you, we'll start off with, is about Jude Bellingham. This story broke last night about just around the time that about half-time in the Manchester City win against Bayern Munich. But Jude Bellingham to Liverpool, look, industry standard. I mentioned this last summer. I heard that Sterling was going to Chelsea about 3 or 4 weeks before it actually came out publicly. I'd say for the last 7 months, it's been going around the industry that Bellingham's going to Liverpool from very good sources. Last night, it came out from the Times that Liverpool are departing in their interest in Liverpool, in bringing Jude Bellingham to Liverpool, mainly because of the need to buy more players than just spending all their budget on one. However, the same article goes on to talk about Manchester United entering the race for Jude Bellingham now, boosted by the revenue they'll bring in from qualifying for the Champions League, i.e. getting into the top 4. So, is Manchester United entering the race for Jude Bellingham? Let's discuss it. We're also going to talk about this sale boost. I just want to say, I will give you my opinion on it, but this is a news show, so we've got to give the news and where it's coming from. That's what we do on the morning show. Look, Jude Bellingham to Manchester United. Look, it's being reported there. I think if you have new owners and they really want to make a statement, they go out and buy maybe Harry Kane and Jude Bellingham and say, look, this is what we're here to do. Do I want Harry Kane and Jude Bellingham? No, I don't want 2 English players. I don't think they've got the mentality. I don't think we need more English players in our team. We are an English club, though. We have got a homegrown quota. But I want winning mentality players. This is a problem with this team, and I'd worry about Bellingham and Kane both coming in. I wouldn't mind Kane and De Jong or Bellingham and Osimhen, but I don't really want Kane and Bellingham because I think this English obsession at big prices hasn't actually served this club well in recent years. But that's a different argument. Jude Bellingham is a phenomenon of a player. To play over 30 games in centre midfield in the Championship at 16 is incredible. What he's doing at Dortmund is fantastic, and he is really one of the best midfielders in the world based on age and experience. So he's got a lot of growth in him, and I think he ticks the box for Manchester United. Of course he does, and for a long time I felt that Bellingham was the player that Manchester United need to go for. We've had our fingers burnt on Bellingham before. He visited Carrington when he was at Birmingham and he chose Dortmund. That was a very different Manchester United, managed by a very different manager to Ten Hag, and also the ownership model was the Glazers. So this could be, conversations with Eric Ten Hag, with a club that's going places, with new ownership that's going places. It'd be a very different project for Jude Bellingham to what it was. And he made the right choice going to Dortmund, let's be honest, because if he'd have come to Man United under Bellingham, he probably would have been still on loan at Birmingham. So he made the right choice. So I don't think you can ignore the deal just because it's fingers burnt. As a footballer, he can do anything. He's a number 8. You could get him to do the Casemiro role because he's intelligent enough to do it. You could get him to be more advanced because he's intelligent to do it. But ultimately, Bellingham next to Casemiro next season would be a very, very, very exciting midfield too. So as a player, for me, I'm all in. Let's do this deal. You've got a story there saying that United are in the race. I think if you've got new ownership, you probably are in the race. Do I think we win that race? No. I don't think we're going to win this race at all, because when you understand what's been going on with Jude Bellingham for the last 8 months, there's been 3 clubs working on this deal for a considerable period of time. And the reason it's such a big story that Liverpool were out of that deal last night is because they've been the front runners in this since probably last August. This is a deal that's been being worked on for ages. And it's a deal that United have sort of gone, hello, from a distance, and occasionally we've been acknowledged, but we're not right in it. Liverpool are, Man City are, Real Madrid are. I don't think Man United offer a secure and viable option to Bellingham and his people to go, let's walk away from these in-depth conversations we've had with Liverpool, Man City and Real Madrid to try something new with Manchester United. It could happen. I don't think it is. I personally think Man United are being thrown in like we always do, and people are going to hate what I'm saying here. I think our name is being thrown in like it's been thrown in about numerous players across Europe over the years. I think we're being thrown in because Dortmund are very clever. Dortmund want the best price they can get. They didn't get what they should have got out of Man City because Erling Haaland had a release clause. Like, Erling Haaland, his dad's and the agency made a shitload of money. That deal was well north of 100 million. Some even talk about north of 150 million. But Dortmund ended up with about 60 because that was the release clause. They want their slice of the pie with Bellingham because he hasn't got a release clause. They want 150. They want 125. To do that, you don't need Liverpool publicly pulling out of the race. You need to replace him with somebody else. And I think we are the club that's being replaced. I do not think Man United are in the race for Jude Bellingham because Man United is still owned by the Glazers and Man United need to buy a striker. And if you think we're buying Jude Bellingham for 125, we're buying a striker for 100. We haven't got 225 million under the Glazers. They still owe hundreds of millions of pounds on transfer repayments they've got to make this summer for players they've bought over the last few years. We're still in debt for £500 million. We still need to build a stadium. We've still got bank loans to pay. We're not buying Jude Bellingham under this current ownership model. So I don't think we're in the race for Bellingham. I think it's just put Man United in the race for Bellingham because we need a midfielder and it replaces Liverpool. But I think this is a Man City or a Real Madrid deal, and I will not get excited about Bellingham because I would love Man United to buy him. But you know what? Percentage-wise, I'd go as low as 10% chance. I cannot see how this deal happens because two reasons really. One, he's been locked in conversation with Madrid, Man City and Liverpool for months. And two, we can't even enter those conversations now. We would only be able to enter this conversation in June or July when the deal is to sell the club has happened. You know, Al Thani or Sir Jim might be saying to their agent, wait for us, but why would they wait? The Glazers definitely aren't talking to them because we can't buy a £100 million striker and Jude Bellingham. We haven't got the money. So I just think it's paper talk, unfortunately. I think United would love to buy him, but I just don't think logically we can get into the race. So that's my thought. Kay says, hi Mark, English players are bottle jobs and overpriced. Thank you very much, Kai. And Luke, welcome to the members club. Thank you very much. You're a legend. Well, let me just run a little poll here because I just want to bring a little bit of a midfield. Who would you sign? And we're just gonna do a quick morning show here. So I'm just gonna put McAllister in there. We'll put De Jong in there. We'll put Bellingham in there. And we'll put Rice in there as well because he's obviously available this summer. So let's just go, who would you take out of those four players? I mean, for me, I quite like Manu Kone as well. There are other midfielders out there. Makish says I like Lavia. But yeah, also great observation there from, who was it? Lazarevich. He says, we're shit at negotiations as well, Mark. Absolutely spot on. Even if we had the money, that's a great point. So for me, we're not in the Bellingham race. One, because we haven't got a new owner. And two, we've not been in negotiations for the last few months. Even if we had those things, I still think we would lose because even on a level playing field, even if we've got the money, you're competing against Man City and Real Madrid with Murta and Arnold. Forget about it. We've got absolutely no chance, have we? So no, I don't think it's going to happen. That's the latest on Bellingham. Where do I think Bellingham will go? I mean, look, you look at Man City last night. We're going to talk about the treble threat in a minute. They're just so bloody strong. Look, how they done this, the FA charges. You know, I wish we had an answer to that. But the reality is, right here, right now, Man City are ridiculously strong. They add Jude Bellingham to that, they just get stronger. I think Man City are now doing what the plan was 10 years ago. You know, first of all, you dismantle the big hitters in the league and become the big hitter yourself, and then you never let it drop. You know, I've seen Man United and Liverpool recently, they got to the top and then they didn't add to the top. Man City just don't need to not do that. They've got the money, the sustainability with their owners. They win things and then they spend £100 million on a player or two. Like I can see Bellingham at Man City. I really can. I think that's a sad move for Jude Bellingham. I really do. I think as a young player with the world at your feet, going to a club like that, with potentially all those charges and accusations hanging against them just for money, I think you've got to question any player that does something like that. But this is football. Welcome to football. A lot of people are driven by money, and Man City probably won't even get charged. So, maybe it's a good move. But all I can say is that, waking up this morning, more people are talking about Liverpool out the Bellingham race than Man City dismantling Bayern Munich, which is incredible and just shows you the interest in Man City. Fantastic team, but more people are talking about, will Man United lose their treble and where's Bellingham going, than an unbelievably good performance last night, which really should be sending shockwaves through Europe. Do you think Bellingham news is coming out to distract from third round of bids, says Dean? Well, traditionally Man United have always been very, very good at that as well. Dean, you make a good point. I hadn't even thought about that. Very good point. Maybe this Bellingham bid is coming out to distract us from the third round of bids. But all I would say about that is, we ain't buying Bellingham under the Glazers. 100% no. We're buying a striker and we won't have enough money for Bellingham. Tom Grant says, hi Mark, as that chap said earlier, terrible at negotiations, spend ages on a deal which will never happen and chase players we would never even consider, says Tom. Well look, I think let's move on to story 2. Last night it broke that there was going to be a third round of bids for Manchester United, and those bids had to be in on the 28th of April, which is 2 weeks on Friday. So 28th of April, end of the month, before we get more bids in. Only a month left of the season before the transfer window opens. That's when the bids go in at the end of this month. Devastatingly bad news. Messes up Man United. Messes up the summer transfer window. Really depressing. And, the Glazers do it again with their greed. I finished the show last night. I did the Man City Bayern watch along on That's Football. And then I was checking some of my messages and had some messages from a couple of journalists who have been very good around this Manchester United sale news, and they said, look, saw the show, saw some of the tweets, don't disagree with the frustration from United fans about a third round of bids, but there is another story going on that could be quite positive. So I read their messages, read some other articles. I thought the Mike Keegan piece was quite good and alluded to this as well in the Mail. So basically there's a bit of hope here, and we always need to cling on to a bit of hope. There is a third round of bids, and this is all about greed from the Glazers. Everybody would admit that. However, there is a deadline next week for due diligence checks. There is a feeling that there will be a full sale from the Glazers, which I've always said. I'm not worried about the Glazers selling. I think they will sell. It's just about when, not if. Some people think the Glazers won't sell. Some people think they might have investment. I think they're going to go. But there is a bit of a story, and it would be wrong of me not to bring it to you. So there is a due diligence deadline next week. What's that, Mark? Well, this is what normally happens after. So what was meant to happen is this. There wasn't meant to be a third round of bids. The Glazers were meant to pick somebody now, let's say Al-Thani and Qatar, and then for the next month work through their bid to get to a point where they sell, doing all the due diligence, legal checks, etc. So that in a month's time, Al-Thani buys Man United. But that can't happen now because we're going through a third round of bids with loads of other people. So you can't sell the club to Qatar because they're still bidding against Sir Jim and everyone else. However, in the backdrop to these third round of bids, everybody's going through due diligence. So it is a positive if it's true, because you won't need to do that afterwards. Like if at the end of April they decide to go ahead with Sir Jim, they'd normally have to go through all the legal checks and due diligence and everything like that, and an exclusivity period. The hint is that there will be no exclusivity period after this, and there will be no due diligence after this. It will literally be, we picked a winner, they're buying the club. Very quick turnaround after the end of April, which could still help us because it might end up with us with new owners for June. Fingers crossed, big if. But if that is true, that is a boost. It is, because it means that we won't have a fourth round of bids, we won't have a period of exclusivity, we'll have to go through all the checks. Now, if that happens, it's good news, But opinion piece, I'll believe it when I see it, because they don't have to do that. They could just hit the end of April and go, let's have another round of bids again. They could hit the end of April and go, we haven't done all the due diligence checks, we're going to go through all that now. So again, something could smell a bit fishy here. It could be a bit sus. It could be, again, a bit of a sprinkler of positivity to make us forget that this is another round of bids on greed. So I don't feel confident about it, but it would be wrong not to bring it in on a news show because it's out there and you can't dictate the story. There is a story out there from a number of people saying that there will be due diligence and legal checks done over the next couple of weeks on everybody, so that when we get to the end of the month, a winner can be picked and the sale can go through quickly. I'll believe it when I see it, but you know, the possibility is there. And like Joe says, it's if. I mean, ultimately, you're in the hands of people who are greedy, and therefore that greed could run on and on and on and on. I mean, I'm really hoping, actually, just to say that, Andrew says I can't wait for it to all be done and dusted. I'm really hoping that somebody in the press conference today asks Erik ten Hag about, I would if I was in the press conference today, and I've asked Adam to ask it if he does, if he gets a question, I would ask Erik ten Hag this. I would say, Erik, I know you don't want to talk about the sale of Manchester United, but last night, third round of bids, end of April, surely that has an impact on your summer transfer window, because everybody's talking to players now, making their plans. How can you make your plans when you don't know what your budget is and you can't really talk to players? I'd love that question to be answered by Erik. He might kill it and go, I don't want to talk about it, but ultimately it is a big impact question. But Philip says maybe Sir Jim and Qatar have asked for this due diligence, Mark. Yeah, look, you know, and also, I mean, if I look at the fan base, I think most people just want Al Thani and Qatar to buy the club now. I think that most Man United fans accept that. It doesn't mean he's going to get it. There's a lot of confidence from Qatar that they will get the club, but it doesn't mean that they will. I feel that, just before we move on to the next story, I feel that what is happening here is that it's almost like a lottery now. They're trying to generate now or never scenario. Everybody goes through due diligence, everybody has the legal checks done, and then at the end of the month you put your bid in. And you know it's the final bid because you know everyone's had all their checks done. So you know if you miss out, someone else gets the club. It's just one last attempt from the Glazers to say, look, we're ready to go with you, and you tomorrow. Just give us the money we want. It's a final push to get the bid. And then what they're trying to do is they're trying to hope that someone will just go, there's 6 billion, we want it because we know we've got the club tomorrow. Bit of and for us as fans, it's Russian roulette, isn't it? Because somebody might just, who's the wrong person, go, oh, I'm that close to getting it. All I've got to do is I'll find another 500 million. So yeah, we'll have to just wait and see, won't we? But yeah, I'd be lying if I said I believed it, and I'd be lying if I said, you know, I think that this will be solved quickly, and I'd be lying if I said I think Qatar will win. I just don't know. I think it's chaotic, and it all comes down to greed, like Daddy says. There we go. On the poll, I did say who would you sign if you had to choose between Alexi McAllister, De Jong, Bellingham and Rice. Well, I can tell you, I hope Declan Rice isn't watching the show this morning, because out of 100%, only 3% would go with Declan Rice. What is it about Declan Rice that sort of fell off, by the ways? I know him and Mason Mount are very good friends. I wonder what they drank on holiday last summer, because I like Mason Mount and I like Declan Rice, but they have fell off a cliff this season. And you know, Declan Rice was quite good in the World Cup, but he's really lost it. I mean, AJ says he's mediocre. Scarboy doesn't want him. Rice is a good player. He's just overpriced. He's crap, says Jacob. Plays for West Ham, says Willie. Overrated, overpriced. I like Declan Rice. I think it'd be a good signing for Man United. Again, I've got to be honest here, and I'm almost going the other way, which is weird because I'm English, but I can't stand the foreign bias. And because there's so much foreign bias, it really puts me off the England team. I hate the England team mentality. They all love linking up with England. They're all big mates, but they don't win anything. I don't care if you're mates. I'd rather hear stories about Argentinian team that hate each other but win the World Cup. Now, they don't hate each other, they like each other, but I don't really want the English. I don't want the English team mentality at Man United. You know, one of our problems that Ten Hag needs to solve is winning mentality, and I think in that England team, they go and spend a month with Southgate, and you think the damage that's doing to them is irreparable. It's absolutely irreparable. You know, it's like finding out that the missus has been taking Seb to watch musicals. I mean, I'm never going to stop him liking musicals then, am I? I've got nothing against musicals. I'm just using it as an example. You know, if you take your kids to watch musicals enough, they're going to start to like them. Your players go and play with England long enough, they're going to get infected by Southgate and his "it doesn't matter if you win" mentality. Yeah, so look, I like Rice, but I'll be honest, I wouldn't go for him out of these four. Second place was Alexi McAllister, 17%, who I do like. And then you've got De Jong in second place with 37%, and Jude Bellingham is number one with 43%. So interesting that out of Rice, Bellingham, De Jong and McAllister, it's De Jong and Bellingham with the most votes, but it's Bellingham who gets the most votes. It's interesting because I think he'll be wearing light blue next season. So you've just voted for a Man City player there, haven't you? But yeah, I think that, look, Bellingham's a fantastic player, absolutely, no doubt about it, but I don't think we're in for him at all. I really don't. I mean, Samuel Lucas, Manchester Evening News, has said that Eric Ten Hag feels Jude Bellingham can create history at Manchester United and would endorse a second pitch to the player. Ten Hag's admiration for Bellingham during the World Cup was so great, he told Confidence if he could sign anyone in the world, it would be him. Simon Stone has also said about the sale, it had been initially hoped the sale process of Man United would be completed by the end of the season, but the additional time for new bids means that it is now unlikely to happen. That's a worrying update from Simon Stone as well. So look, you know, it's amazing, isn't it? I mean, this is the great thing as well. We're live. We've spoken about Bellingham. We've spoken about the sale. I've said about the sale, I don't believe that we're going to get this done by the end of the season, and then Simon Stone comes out and says very unlikely to happen now. So that sort of kicks you in the balls, really, doesn't it? Or the chuff, you know, it's a diverse channel. So we've also got and then you've got Luckhurst coming out about Bellingham. I think it's spin. I think that story's complete spin, because ultimately it doesn't change my opinion. I think that we can't sign Jude Bellingham. I mean, on one hand, you've got Simon Stone saying that the Glazers are going to still be in charge in the summer, and then you've got the Manchester Evening News saying that Jude Bellingham is Ten Hag's priority. Last week it was Harry Kane. I mean, I think sometimes you've got to cut through the bullshit and say, we can't buy... The story's written itself there. You know, sometimes you get a puzzle. The story's written itself. Simon Stone and everyone else is saying we won't have new owners for the summer. But then other people are saying we're going to sign Harry Kane and Jude Bellingham. Where the hell is £250 million coming from? We haven't got £250 million under the Glazers. It irritates me because it's this... It's like somebody said before. Do you think this is just being put out there by the club to distract the big frustration that they would have seen last night about a third round of bids? I mean, part of me thinks, you know what? Hold on a minute. Why have we missed this? 6 o'clock last night, United announced a third round of bids that will mean that we can't be bought before the summer. The Glazers' greed. 8 o'clock, Man United want Bellingham. Oh, come on. Mic drop. Wake up and smell the coffee, people. How many times have we been here? Come on. Get real. Have a word with yourself. 44% of us saying we want Bellingham. Absolute idiots. Who's an idiot? Top answer. Us lot. We've been mugged off again. 6 o'clock last night, we basically find out we're not getting new owners this summer. 8 o'clock, we're signing Bellingham. We've been here before. Get beat at the weekend. Ronaldo's coming back. Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. And Cyber Spider says, morning Mark, the Bellingham story could very well be manipulation tactic, as we got story last night, then this, just another time to split us. Exactly. You look at the anger around the fan base last night, and then they're waking up this morning to Bellingham. I mean, look, in relation to what the Manchester Evening News are saying about Eric Ten Hag, what does it really say? Eric Ten Hag's a big fan of Jude Bellingham and he'd love to sign him. I mean, that's just spin. That's a spin story, isn't it? Doesn't say we've bid for him. Doesn't say we've got a chance of signing him. What I know about Bellingham is that Liverpool, Man City and Real Madrid have been working on that deal for months. Man United haven't. Oh, we're just going to swoop in with the Glazers in charge and buy him. Come on. Come on. Realise how stupid that sounds. We're going to hijack a deal with the Glazers. Bloody hell. The Glazers couldn't hijack a bag of sweets from a baby. You know, it's just not going to happen. It's spin. It's complete and utter spin. And call it for what it is. Because, and you know, I think we're at a point now with United, unless we see the evidence, it's spin. And it is spin. How can a club with £1 billion worth of debt spend £250 million on a striker and a midfielder? It can't. It can't do it. It needs new owners. And we haven't got new owners. So, yeah, it is a load of bollocks, let's be honest. McTominay number 9 next season, says Isa. But look, this is how it works. And I sometimes think that responsible reporting is actually to add to that story. If I was writing that story, I would say Eric Ten Hag's a big admirer of Jude Bellingham and the club are really interested in him. But obviously the club's in £1 billion worth of debt. There's uncertainty on the new ownership. The Glazers wouldn't spend any money in January when Manchester United needed to. The chances of them buying a £100 million striker and Jude Bellingham are next to zero. That's all that needs adding to that story, because that's the truth. And there you go. That is the story there, isn't it? You know, doesn't mean it just gives the truth story. Like, I think sometimes we go from one story to another story, and this is why I love what we do. We'll read you the story and then we'll give you the opinion with your opinion. Because otherwise you're doing a 5-minute video saying why Jude Bellingham's perfect for Man United. Man United have been linked to Jude Bellingham. Ten Hag really likes him. This is why he'd be brilliant. Thanks everyone. Smash a like on the video and subscribe. Like, it's not authentic, is it? It's not real. I would love Enzo Fernandez to have signed for Manchester United. Evan, I would. A couple of other things I wanted to just talk to you about this morning. The treble for Manchester City. I think it's well worth mentioning that. Watched them last night. We were live on That's Football. I'm sure many of you tuned in. We will be live on That's Football tonight for Real Madrid against Chelsea. So it'll be a 7 o'clock show on the United Stand again tonight. We've also got Eric Ten Hag's press conference. We'll be live at about 1:45. Hopefully he'll get some good questions, actually, because there's some good questions to ask. But look, Man City won against Bayern last night 3-0. I think they'll knock Bayern out, which I think is a concern, because I actually fancied Bayern to knock City out. That'll put them in a semi-final against Real Madrid probably, and I think Man City against Real Madrid. I think City are good enough to beat Madrid as well. I can see Man City. I tell you what, they're a threat for the treble. There's no doubt. And I would say this. I'm not going to say they're not going to win it or they are going to win it. But are you not tired that every single season this is happening? I feel like we've turned into Arsenal with the Invincibles, where you celebrate, you look at the league and see who's lost the game, and then you go, yes, another year when no one can do the Invincibles. And I look at it again this year and I'm like, this seems to be happening all the time. All the time we're sort of looking at City and saying, can someone knock them out of the FA Cup? Because it's been going on for years. And you know, Andrea says it makes me ill. I think this has to come down to the Glazers as well, because we as a fan base should not be praying for others to stop Man City. We have to stop them. So I look at the FA Cup and I actually think the FA Cup has to become a priority. And I hope Eric Ten Hag realises it, because we're in the FA Cup. The FA Cup is part of the treble. Man City will be in the final because they've got a bye to the final with Sheffield United. We've got a tough game against Brighton. We've got to beat Brighton and beat Man City. We can stop the treble. So my anxiety about the treble is on us. If we mess the FA Cup up and Man City win the treble, it's on us. It's on Manchester United. So if Man City win the treble, as much as I'll hate it, Arsenal have pushed them all the way in the league. Their run to the final in the Champions League is very difficult, and we're still in the FA Cup. If they win the treble, it'll be horrible, but it's not like they've had it on a plate. And also, we could stop it. So I think at the end of the day, there is a chance that they could win the treble, but they've still got a lot of hurdles to jump, and we can be the biggest hurdle. So let's see what happens. But I don't like it. And this is why I want new owners. This is why we can't waste another summer, because if we don't have a good summer transfer window, Man City will be going for a treble next year. We've got to be in a position to stop them doing it. And we've not been able to stop them for a decade. They've messed it up themselves. We can't rely on others. It's our record. We've got to stop them. Now, we've got one chance in the FA Cup to stop them. And then next year, we have to try and stop them on more fronts. But this is why we need the sale. Mark, to be honest, when the Glazers go, then I'll be jumping up and down. But until then, I'm like, whatever, says Ray Carl. Hope you're doing well, Ray. Thank you very much for your super chat there. Any updates on Rashford, says Ace. Hopefully that'll be a question that Erik ten Hag gets asked today. He's not always brilliant on updating on transfers, but he will know the situation with Marcus Rashford. And I don't really see any point in keeping it quiet. So I expect we'll get an update on Marcus Rashford today. We might, sometimes it comes out an hour or so before the press conference, but I think we will get an update on Marcus Rashford today. As I said, I'm expecting somewhere between 3 and 5 weeks, but I guess we'll wait and see. Interesting as well, I just want to give Erik ten Hag a massive shout out, because I don't know whether you saw it yesterday, but I certainly did. There was Ten Hag did a bit of an interview, and effectively what he said was, I'm going to try and find it here. What he said was he was talking about the red cards for Casemiro, because obviously Casemiro's back now. And basically what he said was that anybody who knows football knows that they weren't red cards. And I was like, you know what? I love this, because I've been, and I know many of you have been in agreement with me, I've been on about this all season. Neither Casemiro card was a red card. And Ten Hag is still on about it. And I love that from the manager, because this is the sort of thing Sir Alex would do. He just will not let it drop. He will not let it drop. He's like, they weren't red cards. And, you know, even though it's great to have him back, they weren't red cards. And he was asked the question, do you think Casemiro is now a marked man? And this is something I think we need to be really careful about. I think Casemiro is a marked man. And I think we need to be really careful about this. I think he is being targeted by referees. And the best thing you can do if you think you're being victimised or targeted is to highlight it before it happens again. So I think I was reading what Ten Hag said yesterday about them neither of them being a red card. And I think it's really important to say this right here, right now. So if it happens, you know, he is being targeted. And I think there is a chance he'll get another red card or yellow cards again. Because I think that he is being victimised and targeted by this British refereeing. The amount of times I've said it over the last few weeks, and I've gone, if that was Casemiro, it's a red. Jack Grealish last night went through the back of somebody, didn't even get a yellow card. I was like, if that's Casemiro, he probably gets a red in the Prem. There's been so many tackles worse than Casemiro's red against Southampton. There's been so many tackles worse than that. I've seen tackles like Ben White at the weekend. Shouldn't have been a red, but it was worse than Casemiro's. I saw one the week before where they missed the ball and caught them on the shin. Didn't even get a red. So I've seen people grabbing people around the neck, not the collar, didn't get a red. So look, I agree with Ten Hag. Casemiro's been treated really, really badly, and there are countless examples that I hope Man United have logged. If I was Man United, they've got enough money, I would be compiling a clips compilation of tackles worse than Casemiro, and I'd be going yellow card, no card, no card, yellow card. I'd also have everyone who's grabbed someone around the neck as well. And I would just keep it as an evidence file. And then what I would do then is, if he gets another red card, I'd send it to the FA and I'd leak it to United Stand and we'll put it out as well. But no, I think he is. The Chelsea tackles the day before, I think the evidence is there that he has been targeted. And I think Erik ten Hag has been very, very clever by publicly saying they weren't red cards, and he doesn't expect him to be targeted because he's not actually done anything wrong. And these referees now, it's a bit like when Klopp said Man United were getting loads of penalties and then we stopped getting them. I think what Ten Hag's doing is I've played the game. He's playing the game a little bit, and he's putting pressure on these incompetent referees, almost saying, I dare you to give him another dodgy red. Over to them. Mark, Tom Grant says, I proposed to my missus last night and she loves the show after showing your videos. She adores your Sean Dyche impression as well. Cheers. Well, Tom, at the end of the day, I don't want to mention the word would and your missus, but
what was the answer? Because if you proposed last night, you big bollocks, saying she likes the show and she likes the impression, and you proposed to your missus last night, but you haven't told us whether she said yes or no. I think she might have said yes. If she did, congratulations. Let's hope that Everton can stay up and you can stay up. No, we won't go there, but congratulations to Tom and your missus.
I presume she said yes. I presume she did. Anyway, look, thanks everyone for watching. We are back very soon because we are back for the Erik ten Hag press conference in a couple of hours' time. So make sure you smash a like and, more importantly, subscribe. She did say yes, says Tom Grant. Back of the net. Or back of the... No, we won't go there. Yeah, well done. Well done from me as well. And everyone in the chat is saying well done, which is great. Make sure you subscribe, bottom right-hand corner, and tick your subscription notifications. It's free to subscribe, but there's a little bell you can do to get a notification when we go live, because a lot of people have been moaning about that. And I'm like, if you're not subscribed and you don't do the bell to get your notifications, you might not get a notification when we go live. I'm subscribed to That's Football, and every time I put a video, my phone does actually give me a notification. So I don't know whether people are aware of that, but make sure you subscribe. Get your notifications on, and then every time we go live, you'll know. Especially with the summer transfer window and sale coming up, we are live every morning at 10 o'clock. We'll be live at 7 o'clock tonight, and we'll be live at 1:45 for the Ten Hag stuff, but sometimes we just go live for big news. Thanks everyone for watching. Take care. Don't have a good day. Have a great day.